Hello, my name is John Wallbarger, and I'm going to be giving a poetry workshop on Duende. Just to give a little background about myself, I am living in Philadelphia, and I teach at the University of the Arts. I teach a poetry workshop there, and I have four books of poetry. And I grew up in Canada. I lived in Hong Kong from 2012 to 2014, and I met your teacher, Monica Lamb, in, I guess it was 2012. So I'm very happy to be giving this almost hour-long talk on Duende, probably 50 minutes. So let's begin. I'm going to give an idea of what the Duende is, and I'm going to give a couple of examples of poems, and I'm going to give you a couple of prompts so that you can write some poems as well. So to begin, the Duende is an idea that was developed by Federico Garcia Lorca, the Spanish poet, who died, I think it was 1935 or so, during the Civil War in Spain. The Duende basically is a hobgoblin or a goblin, which is a kind of spirit. It's like a little creature which doesn't come unless it smells the idea of death in the air. So this is not a literal creature, like a real creature that you find, you can look up on the internet and that they have documentaries about on National Geographic. This is an invented, like mythic creature, which is just basically a way of thinking about art. So, this goblin spirit, let me say something first about the name of this goblin spirit. The word duende, it's a Spanish word, so it means dueño de casa, is like the owner of the house. So it's like a spirit that comes into the house. So that's where the name comes from. If you look it up in the dictionary, duende, it will say a quality of passion or inspiration. See, these are all different ways of looking at it. So, it's a way for me, the duende, which I find useful to look at art. Now, certain art I find quite boring. And I wonder sometimes, why do I find this art boring? Certain art seems to be missing something. And I figured out after a while that the art that's missing something could possibly be lacking in Duende, which is this idea of something darker, something like I said, the smell of death or the possibility of some kind of darkness. So for me, this perhaps could be just my taste, but if there is no darkness whatsoever in a work of art, then it makes me wonder a little bit, because life has darkness, so art should also have darkness to some degree. So it comes from this idea. So this is the goblin spirit which inhabits great art. You can think of that. So what is this goblin spirit? Well, Lorca got the idea from the Roma people, which they used to be called gypsies or gitanos in Spanish. So Lorca said this about the Roma people. The Roma is the most basic, most profound, the most aristocratic of my country, as representative of their way, and whoever keeps the flame, blood, and the alphabet of the universal Andalusian truth. So these gypsies, these Roma people, infused Lorca's sense of art. So this sense of the blood and the flame. He loves these ideas, these elemental, basic ideas. So the idea of duende comes from this Roma or gypsy tradition of a way of looking at art. So the duende is a goblin spirit which represents a sense of struggle. So this is one way of thinking about certain types of art. It contains a struggle. So as in life, nothing is absolutely simple, right? everything good in life, we gain from a meeting of different sides. The different sides clash, and then we move forward. So the Duende, you can think of this little hobgoblin that comes, and there's struggle always when the hobgoblin is in the room. Okay? So, I'm going to be working from the sheets, the workshop sheets, which I hope that Professor Lamb has showed you. So there's Tracy K. Smith is on the sheets, and some quotes from Garcia Lorca, and a couple of sample poems from Marie Howe, Walt Whitman, and Lorca himself. So I'm going to refer to these frequently, but not just yet. So let me go back to the goblin. What is the goblin? Lorca says that the goblin is not a muse, right? The muses were the little creatures that inspired poets. Erato is a muse. So Homer, in his Odyssey and Iliad, he's always calling upon the muses. He says, "Oh, great muse, please give me the language to talk about whatever it is, to enter my epic." So it's like asking permission from these little creatures. So he says, Lorca says, it's not a muse, and it's not an angel either. So think of angels in the Christian tradition of, with their wings and bringing you up to heaven and these kind of ideas. So it's not, so the Duende is not like an angel, says Lorca, or like a muse. So what is it? So if you go to your sheets, I want to read you one of the quotations from Lorca. So this is the first one. Whatever has black sounds has Duende. There is no greater truth. These black sounds are the mystery, the roots that probe through the mire that we all know of and do not understand, but which furnishes us with whatever is sustaining in art. Black sounds. So said the celebrated Spaniard, thereby concurring with Goethe, who in effect defined the Duende when he said, speaking of Paganini, a mysterious power that all may feel and no philosophy can explain. Now, I should say, if you haven't already gathered, that this idea of the Duende is not one which is overly easy to define. It's a kind of it's an idea in the imagination, and you have to be able to picture it yourself, and then we can work from that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I would like to give you a prompt. I'm going to give you 3 prompts as we go. So I'm going to give you the first one now, and then I'm going to come back and we'll continue talking about the Duende, and I'll get to some poems, okay? So in this prompt, I'm going to give you a bunch of words, and I want you to write them down, all right? These are very typical archetypal words, kind of like old archaic words that you often find in like fables, and Lorca would say in Andalusian writing and from the writing of the Romas. So old style words. So first write these words down. I'll go through them fast, so just write down as many as you can hear. Okay, here I go. The distance. Her cheekbones. River. Wounding. Bitterness of Don Juan. Dionysus. Wine. Song, tower, wind, hollows, orchard, oil lamp, firefly, knife in the gut, knife in the heart, village, mountains, fog, olive trees, crystal, flower, bird, labyrinth, archer, weep, balcony, dagger, headlights on the ceiling, street, door, early morning, bells, love, desert, dry land, white serpent, silence, and heart. Now, what I would like you to do is to write a poem about your day and use as many of those words as you can fit into the poem. I'll give you 5 minutes, and I'll be right back.